This is a free online workshop for those who want to get their California contractor license. Our goal this morning is to go through all the parts of the license application and give you practical tips to help you complete it correctly and to give you every opportunity to demonstrate your experience and qualifications to get your California contractor license. We will also help get you ready for your licensing exam and give you a link to a video that shows you exactly what to expect on your test day. Today's webcast is presented by the Contractor State Licensing Board, the government agency responsible for regulating the California's construction industry. I am Fuad Garigozlu, licensing supervisor at CSLB. Joining us is Ronald James from CSLB's License Verification Unit. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning. CSLB is overseen by a 15-member board that directs administrative policy for our operations. Our board is made up of 10 public members, including 1 labor representative, 1 local building official, and 1 representative of a statewide senior citizen organization, and 5 contractors. Appointments are made by the governor and the state legislature.
Please note, CSLB test centers are open. It is recommended the applicants will have to wear masks on test day. Before arriving for your test, check and follow your local COVID-19 mask guidance. If you are watching right now on either YouTube Live or Facebook Live and want to ask questions, you will need to join us on WebEx. There is a banner with a link on the top of our homepage, www.cslb.ca.gov. That is also where you can download this presentation to follow along. The presentation file includes clickable bonus links that appear on the slides throughout this workshop. We are going to present a lot of information today, so don't worry if you don't get it all. We will archive the video of this workshop and put it on our YouTube channel so you can go back and watch it again. To ask a question on WebEx, use the Q&A feature, not the chat feature. On the bottom right of your screen, make sure you send your question to all participants, all panelists. Finally, we tend to get a lot of questions during these workshops on how you document your work experience and what credit you can get for your education or military service. Those questions are fine, but we would ask that you wait to send us those questions until after you see that part of the workshop. We'll go through your question at the end of our presentation, which should last about 45 minutes.
The information obtained during this webcast is not, nor is intended to be legal advice. While this webcast contains general information, including legal guidelines for contractors' license applications, it does not contain definitive statements of the law and may not reflect the most current legal developments in the construction industry. Such guidelines communicated or discussed during the webcast are for informational purposes only. If you have questions about the application of the law for specific situations, you should contact an attorney who is familiar with California construction law, or review the 2022 edition of the CSLB publication, California Contractors License Law and Reference Book. You can download it for free on the CSLB website or purchase it directly from the publisher, LexisNexis. There are links for both at the bottom of this screen.
Here is a list of what we are going to cover today. We will take you through the process for applying for your California contractor's license. First, who needs a license? Why get a contractor's license? The minimum qualifications you will need to get a license and what credits you might qualify for. The types of business entities, the different CSLB license classifications, including our new B2 Residential Remodeling classification. We will spend a lot of time giving you tips on how to help fill out your application, including how to demonstrate your work experience to meet the minimum qualifications. We also talk about fingerprint requirements for a criminal background check, We will help get you ready for the exam or exams you will need to pass in order to get your license. And finally, the other things you will need to have in place before your license is issued, things like a bond and insurance.
First, we'll take a look at who needs a license. Here in California, a state contractor's license is needed for all construction projects priced at $500 or more. That total includes both labor and materials. The law doesn't allow you to break down a project into $499 pieces. It's the entire project. Also, you can't charge an hourly rate to get around the $500 threshold. If the hourly costs times the number of hours for the job totals $500 or more, you need a contractor's license. So what is the definition of a contractor? The definition comes from the state Business and Professional Code. In this case, it's section 7026.1. We've got a link to that code at the top of the page if you download the presentation. I'll read the entire code, but pay special attention to the part we underlined. A contractor is any person, consultant to an owner building, firm, association, organization, partnership, business trust, corporation, or company, who or which undertakes, offers to undertake, purports to have the capacity to undertake, or submits a bid to contract any building or home improvement projects or part thereof. In other words, you don't have to do the work to break the law. You must have a contractor's license just to advertise that you can do the construction work or even to give a bid for a construction job if that bid totals $500 or more.
So you may be asking yourself, why should I get a license? Here are a few good reasons. First, you can take pride in being a licensed professional. It shows you have taken the steps to get licensed and you're serious about your career choice. It allows you to make valuable contributions to your local community. Unlicensed contractors must operate in the shadows and cannot help make their community a better place to live. Next, it allows you to get paid for the work you do. There is value to the work done by a licensed professional. Being licensed also gives you legal options if customers don't pay you. Unlicensed contractors do not have a legal right to take someone to court to get paid because the work required a license and they were unlicensed to do the work in the first place. Also, you would be able to use the mechanics lien law. Next, you don't have to look over your shoulder with fear of getting caught. Contracting without a valid California license can lead to misdemeanor charges. Those caught face a first offense sentence of up to 6 months in jail and or a $5,000 fine and potential administrative fines anywhere between $200 to $15,000. Subsequent violations can result in increased criminal penalties and fines. In addition, you may face felony charges if you contract without the license when one is required in a state or federally declared disaster area, or if you try to pass yourself off as a licensed contractor by illegally using a license number. Also remember, there are no educational requirements to get a license. Also, you do not have to go to a license preparation school to get your contractor's license.
So, what do you need to get your license? First, it is important to understand that CSLB does not license individuals. We license companies or business, also called entities. Many entities are one-person operations, but know that every entity, even a one-person operation, must have a qualifier. That's someone who has the minimum experience and is responsible for the operations of the company. Here's a short list of minimum qualifications you will need. You must be at least 18 years old. You must have either a valid Social Security number or a valid individual taxpayer identification number, or ITIN. You can qualify the license in one of two ways. First, you can qualify the license by having at least 4 years of experience within the last 10 years as a journey person, foreperson, supervising employee, or contractor in the trade being applied for. Or you can also get a qualifier for the license who has that required experience. We will spend a lot of time talking about how you can demonstrate your experience on your application in a few minutes.
It may be possible for you to substitute your education, technical training, and apprenticeship training for some of the required experience. We tend to get a lot of questions on this. First, CSLB cannot prejudge your experience. Due to the number of applications we receive and process every month, we don't have the staff time that would be needed to prejudge your experience. We can only review your documents after you apply for your license. Next, to get education credit, the coursework must be directly related to the work you will be doing as a contractor. Your education cannot be substituted for more than 3 years or 36 months of the required experience, meaning you will need at least 1 year of practical experience if you get the full 36 months of education credit. To apply for education credit, you must provide CSLB with written documentation. That means a copy of any apprenticeship completion certificates you earn, or get official technical school or college transcripts. Have your transcripts mailed to you. Do not open the envelope, leave it sealed and included with your CSLB applications packet. Note that high school courses will not earn you any credit toward your contractor's license.
If you're looking to get education credits to meet the 4 years or 48 months of experience, you'll need to get your transcripts first. This is the most important slide of the entire workshop. This is the kind of credit you can expect to receive for your education. Note that for some areas, we are only giving you averages. You will see that your credit will be determined on a case-by-case basis. We're not going to be able to give you any more guidance than what you see on this slide. So our best advice is do not rely on the combination of your experience and education credits to barely hit the 4-year experience mark. There is always the real possibility you will not get as much education credit as you were hoping. Let's go through the chart from the most credit you can get to the least. The most education credit you can get is for a Bachelor of Science degree in construction management. That degree will get you the full 36 months of credit. Next is a master's or bachelor's degree in business or a law degree. Any one of those will get you 24 months of credit. An associate in science degree in construction management will get you 18 months credit. A bachelor's degree in some other major will get you an average of 18 months credit. An associate degree in a major besides construction management will get you an average of 6 months credit. Credit for individual college classes are given on a case-by-case basis, usually with a maximum of 6 months credit. Apprenticeship completion certificates will get you 24 to 36 months, depending upon the classification of the program. For example, a sheet metal worker apprenticeship gets you 24 months credit for the C20 HVAC and C43 sheet metal classifications only. A lineman apprenticeship gives you 36 months in C7 low voltage and C10 electrical classifications only. If you have transcripts of other technical training you've taken, you might be able to get some minimal credit as well. Again, don't use your education credits to try and squeak by the 4 years or 48 months requirement.
If you served in the military, some of that service might count as well. On the bottom of the page, you will see a bonus link to our CSLB Military Application Assistant Program, where you can learn more. The license qualifier also must pass 2 different exams, both taken on a computer at one of CSLB's test centers. One exam is on California business law. The other is the specific trade covered by the license. We also have limited specialty licenses, which we will discuss later. Those licenses only require the qualifier to take the law and business exam. As we mentioned, the qualifier is the one who must take and pass the required exams or qualify for a waiver. We are not going to spend a lot of time on the waiver, only to note that you might be able to request a waiver from taking one or both exams in very specific situation. We recommend that you look at the CSLB website for more information on those specific situations. We have included a bonus link at the bottom of the page. The qualifier must also undergo the criminal background check. We'll go more in depth on that in a few minutes. After the license is issued, the qualifier must be in a position to exercise direct supervision and control of the company's operations. They're also responsible for all workmanship issues. It is also important to note here that if you are trying to get a B general building contractor license and you hire subcontractors to work under you, you are responsible as the project's prime contractor for the work that they do.
The next thing you're going to need to determine before applying for your license is which type of entity your business will be. There are 4 types. First is a sole ownership, where the owner or responsible managing employee may serve as the license qualifier. Just about 2/3 of the contracting businesses in California are sole ownerships. Second, a corporation, which either of the current officers designated as the responsible managing officer or the responsible managing employee may serve as a qualifier. Just under 1/3 of our licensees are corporations. A distant third is a partnership where either of the general partners or a responsible managing employee may serve as the qualifier. That's 2% of our licensees. Finally, a limited liability company or LLC, where a responsible managing member, responsible managing manager, a responsible managing officer, or a responsible managing employee may serve as the qualifier. About 1.5% of California construction companies are LLCs.
Now let's talk about license classifications. A contractor's license can include multiple classifications, although you must select one when filing your application. While there are more than 40 license classifications in California, they all fall under 3 distinct categories. There is a bonus link to our classification list at the bottom of the screen. First is a Class A, or general engineering contractors. These are contractors who deal with fixed works that require a specialized engineering knowledge and skill. A contractors are the ones who build projects such as freeways, skyscrapers, and dams. Today, there are over 19,000 A contractors in the state. Next is Class B, or general building contractors. This is the largest class of contractors in California with more than 133,000. B contractors have a principal business dealing with any structure built, being built, or to be built that requires as part of its construction at least 2 unrelated building trades or crafts. In other words, a B contractor shouldn't take a prime contract for any project involving trades other than framing or carpentry unless the prime contract requires at least 2 unrelated building trades other than framing or carpentry. There is no limitation on B contractors to stop them from taking on projects that only include framing or carpentry. The final class is C, or specialty contractors. These licenses are for construction work that requires a special skill and whose principal contracting business involves the use of specialized building trades or crafts. Examples from this class include C10, electrical contractors, C20, HVAC contractors, C27, landscaping contractors, C36, plumbing contractors, C39, roofing contractors, C46, solar contractors, and C53, swimming pool contractors, just to name a few. There are also 30 limited specialty classes under the C61 classification. These include the C61 D34, prefabricated equipment class. More than 209,000 contractors hold a C license in California.
CSLB's newest licensing classification is called the B2 Residential Remodeling classification. The B2 allows contractors who don't have structural framing experience to get a license with the CSLB. Here's what interested applicants need to know. B2 license holders must engage in 3 or more trades or crafts on a project. B2 licenses are also limited to working on existing residential wood frame structure. There are some things B2 license holders cannot do. They cannot make structural alterations to load-bearing partitions and walls. They cannot install or extend electrical or plumbing systems. They can make modifications to existing systems, for example, install recessed lighting or alter plumbing for 2 shower heads. B2 licenses also cannot install or replace an HVAC system. Like all other CSLB licensees, B2 applicants, licensees must comply with the CSLB experience, examination, license bond, and workers' compensation insurance requirements. If you have more questions about the B2 license, email the licensing division at licensing@cslb.ca.gov.
When you are ready to apply for a license, here are the 2 forms you will need. On the left is the license application. On the right is the certification of work experience. You can get these forms on the CSLB website. There is a bonus link on the left side of the page, so be sure to download this presentation. We will give you a closer look at the different sections of these forms a little later.
Okay, now let's break down the steps of the application process. First, identify who will be the qualifier for your license. That person will be responsible for the exercising direct supervision and control of the company. If you're using an RME or a responsible managing employee as your qualifier, determine if he or she can qualify for an exam waiver. Be aware of companies that you pay to connect you with a licensed qualifier. In some cases, these qualifiers are in a different part of the state and cannot exercise direct supervision needed, or they aren't willing or don't understand their role as a qualifier. Next, make sure you complete the correct application. There are 2 options. Number 1 is the application for original contractor's license. And number 2 is the application for original contractor's license examination waiver 7065. We've got links to both at the bottom of the page.
The next step is to determine your company name. Take a look at the application, for example. Some things to keep in mind. Your name cannot be misleading or imply that you qualify for a license classification other than what you are getting. For example, if you're going to apply for a C36 plumbing license, you cannot have company of John Smith Plumbing, Construction, Heating, and Drywall. Corporate and LLC names must match exactly the name registered with the California Secretary of State's office. The names of everyone on your Secretary of State Statement of Information must be listed on your CSLB application. You can also use what is called the DBA, which stands for Doing Business As. The main things to remember here is the DBA name cannot be misleading, and you must use that name in all advertising and on all your contracts. Next, you will want to get together certifications to support your work experience. You should do this even if you apply for an exam waiver. Feel free to use multiple pages if necessary. Next, be sure to note if you are a military veteran. Some of your military service may be used to meet your 4 years of experience qualifications. Also, your application may be expedited through our Military Application Assistance Program. We mentioned that a few minutes ago. There is a bonus link at the bottom of the screen for more information on that program. To participate, you must have had an honorable discharge. Be sure to include a copy of your military DD-214 paperwork showing your honorable discharge with your application. The next couple of items are basic but important. Proofread your application for any missing information. Make sure you have provided an answer to all necessary fields. Second, don't forget to sign and date the application. Finally, determine if you need a special accommodation to take your exams. If so, complete the request form and submit it with your application. We'll talk about the use of translators a little later.
Next, we'll take a closer look at our fingerprint requirements, which are used for a criminal background check. This is a list of those who must submit a full set of fingerprints to CSLB, depending on the type of business entity. All applicants, each corporate officer, each partner, each owner, the responsible managing employee, and all home improvement salespersons. If you are in California, you must submit fingerprints electronically with what's called live scan. You can get an updated list of live scan locations in California, broken down by county, on the Attorney General's website. We have a link here, so you can simply go to the Attorney General's website and search for live scan. You will also see that we have a bonus link at the bottom of the screen to the fingerprint information page on our CSLB website. If you're out of state, it's going to be tough for you to get us your fingerprints. That's because you must submit hard copies of them the old-fashioned way. Those take anywhere from between 3 and 6 months for the FBI and Department of Justice to process. So you might want to consider traveling to California to get your electronic live scan done here.
So what happens if you have any criminal convictions? CSLB may deny your license for the following reasons. First, if your conviction is substantially related to the duties, functions, and qualifications of a contractor. Also, if your conviction involves fraud or a violent crime. There are other factors CSLB also considers. They are the nature and severity of the crimes, the amount of time that has passed since a conviction, and any evidence of rehabilitation that you submit to CSLB. CSLB evaluates felony criminal convictions which occurred within 7 years of the application date. So for applications filed this year, we would look back to 2015. For misdemeanor criminal convictions, we would look back for 3 years of the application date to 2019. That's unless the convictions are for a violent felony, certain sexual crimes, or financial crimes related to construction. CSLB denies only 1% of the total applications we get based on criminal convictions. You'll also note the bonus link to our fingerprint information page.
Okay, Along with education credits we talked about earlier, this next section is probably the most important of the entire workshop, and the part of the application that causes the most headaches for applicants. It is how you demonstrate your work experience on your application. Remember, the license qualifier needs 4 years or 48 months of experience within the past 10 years in the classification for which you're applying. That means at least 4 years of experience since 2012. The experience must be at no less than a journeyman level or as a foreman, supervising employee, contractor, or owner builder. A journeyman is defined as an experienced worker who is fully qualified as opposed to a trainee and can perform trade without supervision, or one who has completed an apprenticeship program.
There is a limited amount of space on the application to show your certified work experience. So feel free to use additional pages if needed and simply attach them at the end of the work experience form. Use as many certifications of work experience form as you need to prove the required 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. Use a different form for each certifier. Be as accurate as possible. Make sure the person certifying your work describes the actual work you performed and the dates in which you performed them. We will now share some examples of both good and unacceptable descriptions to demonstrate work experience. Do not copy and paste this information directly into your application. These are just examples.
At the top of this chart is the classification and type of experience you're trying to demonstrate. The first example is journeyperson experience. The overall theme we'll keep repeating is the more specific the description, the better. Note, the work experience form should be completed by your certifier, someone who has knowledge and has observed your work experience in the classification you're applying for. That person does not have to be a licensed contractor.
Our first example is for Class B, General Building Contractor. The best type of description your certifier would use for journeyperson experience is to be specific. Journeyperson experience must include hands-on work, like this. Bob performed rough and finish carpentry, concrete forming and tools, rough-out plumbing and electrical, interior-exterior painting and flooring on residential homes. An unacceptable description would be something generic like residential general building trades. For four-person experience, the description must include some hands-on work and/or supervisory work. Here is an example of the best type of description. Bob oversaw other staff at job site performing rough and finish carpentry, concrete forming and pours, rough-out plumbing and electrical, interior-exterior painting and flooring on residential homes. Again, an unacceptable description would be something generic like residential general building trades. For supervising employee experience, the description should include an explanation of how you arrived at the supervisor level. An example is, as a construction lead on multiple projects, Bob supervised rough and finish carpentry, concrete forming and pours, rough-out plumbing and electrical, interior-exterior painting, and flooring on residential homes. Again, unacceptable would be something like residential general building trades. For out-of-state contractor experience, the description must include examples of work done that were out of a state, military, on federal land, or work for a government entity. Applicants can qualify as a journeyperson, foreperson, or supervising employee. A tip: be specific about your duties and employment circumstances.
Our next example is for the C27 Landscaping Contractor. First, for experience at the journeyman level, the best type of description your certifier would use would be: Jane performed landscape construction, maintenance, and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips, and pathways and tree pruning. An unacceptable explanation would be gardening, yard maintenance, planting. For a C27 landscaping contractor, the best work experience description for a 4-person would be something like: Jane oversaw other staff at job sites performing landscape construction, maintenance, and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips and pathways, and tree pruning. An unacceptable description, again, would be something like gardening, yard maintenance, planting. For a C27 supervising employee, the description should include an explanation of how you arrived at the supervisor level. The best description would be: as a construction lead on multiple projects, applicant supervised landscape construction, maintenance, and installation of sprinklers, ground plants, low voltage lighting, ornamental yard art, concrete mow strips and pathways, and tree pruning. Unacceptable here for the supervising employee would be something like gardening, yard maintenance, and planting. Finally, for out-of-state contractors, the same guidance that we showed you for general building contractors is required. Be sure to include examples of your out-of-state work, as well as work for the military on federal lands or for a government entity. Be sure to be specific when you describe your duties and employment circumstances.
By law, CSLB must randomly review and verify all the information provided on at least 3% of our applications. Our next 3 slides run down the acceptable documentation you can use to support your work experience in the event that your application was selected and you were asked to provide additional documentation. The supporting documentation should not be mailed in with your application. You will only need to provide this information if requested by CSLB staff. On the lower right of the screen, you will see a link to this publication on our website, along with additional information on experience documentation. If you look at the chart, you can see the first column is for documents you can use if you were employed by a licensed contractor. The second column is for documenting your experience if you have been self-employed. The third column is for documentation you will need if you're applying for a Class B general building contractor license and need to use owner-builder experience to meet the experience requirements. Here is the next page of acceptable documentation. Again, you can click on the link to view and print this publication. If you do not have this information readily available, you may want to begin to gather it now, just in case you're asked to provide it in the future. Remember, you're trying to demonstrate 4 years of experience within the last 10 years. CSLB staff may contact the certifier of experience or other parties to verify experience.
One other note. CSLB gets more than 1,000 applications each month, so our application processing staff has seen it all. They've got 2 pieces of advice. First, don't cut and paste from this presentation. Also, don't try to get around having to take a trade test by applying for multiple subcategories under the C61 Limited Specialty Classification. Okay. That is the content you'll need to fill out your application. Before getting it to CSLB, double check to make sure you did not miss anything, and be sure to sign and date it as well. And don't forget to include the all-important $450 application fee. You'll pay the initial license fee of $200 for a sole owner license, or $350 for a non-sole owner license after you pass your exam or exams. Then put your application packet in the mail to CSLB or hand deliver to one of our public counters. We've got a bonus link at the bottom of the screen with our office locations.
So now we're going to talk about parts of the application. This is section 1, business name and address. Now that we have gone, section 1 is where you list your business name. Remember, when selecting a business name, make sure the name that you have selected is compatible with the classification and the entity that you're applying for and is not misleading. If your business is a corporation or LLC, you will need to make sure that the name you provide in this section matches exactly the business name registered with the Secretary of State. In line 2, you will indicate what classification you're applying for. The mailing address and phone number that you list on line 3A and 3C will be made public on CSLB's website once you're licensed. In section 2, you will select your business entity. If you're applying for a corporation or LLC, you will need to provide your registration number provided to you by the Secretary of State. Make sure to pay extra attention to the instruction in this section pertaining to the entity for which you are applying.
In section 3, you will list the qualifier's information. Remember, the qualifier is the person that meets the experience requirements and will be responsible for the direct supervision and control of construction operations. The qualifier will be the person taking the exams. On line 6, you will list any previous or current license numbers you've held. You will also need to list the percentage of the new business owned by the qualifier. For example, if you are the only person that will be listed on the license, you would enter 100%. On line 7, you will need to indicate what position will be held by the qualifier. Each entity has different personnel requirements. You will need to make sure that you have listed all positions depending on the entity you have selected. You can find more information on this on pages 2 through 4 of the application instructions. Line 8 is where you will sign and date your application. Section 4 is where you will list the personnel information for all remaining personnel that will be listed on the license. For example, if you're applying for a corporation, you will need to indicate who will be the responsible managing officer or employee, the president, secretary, and treasurer. Again, more information can be found on page 4 of the application instructions. If you will have more than 4 people on your license, you can make additional copies of this page and include it with your application. For corporations and LLCs, you'll want to make sure that all personnel that are listed with the Secretary of State are listed in this section. All personnel that will be listed on the license must sign the application in section 4.
Section 5 is a series of yes and no questions, so we are not going to cover those here. You may be granted credit toward the 4-year experience requirement based on your education. Question 17 asks if you have completed an educational or apprenticeship program. You will need to submit official sealed transcripts if you would like to be considered for this credit. If you attended formal training or an apprenticeship program, you will need to provide a certificate of completion. Get those sealed transcripts mailed to you. Then include the sealed transcripts with your application packet. Do not have the program send transcripts directly to CSLB. You don't want to take a chance that we are not able to match them up with your application. CSLB may grant you up to 3 years of credit based on your education. This credit is not on a year-to-year basis, meaning if you have a 2-year college degree, you won't necessarily be granted 2 years of credit towards the experience requirements. You may qualify for this credit regardless of when you completed your education. The 10-year time frame does not apply to education. You may also apply for this credit even if your education was received out of the country. If your degree is in any other language other than English, it must be translated and evaluated by an accredited evaluation service that does business within the United States. Now we will discuss the certification of work experience. Part 1 will be filed out by you. The applicant here, you will list the information about your employer where you gained your experience. So part 1 is completed by the applicant. If you were self-employed when you gained the experience, please make sure to check the box in line 2. If you are applying for a B general construction license and will be using experience obtained while working on your own property, make sure to mark the box in line 4 and complete an owner builder construction project experience form that we will discuss later. Part 2 of certification of work experience will be filled out by the certifier. In this section, the certifier must include the dates in which you obtained the experience. They must also select if you were working on a part-time or full-time basis. Keep in mind, if you are working part-time, you will receive 50% credit for that time, which means you will need to provide 8 years of experience within the last 10 years to meet the 4-year requirement. On line 6, your certifier will need to list the duties that you performed or supervised that are considered critical for the classification that you're applying for. You can read a description of critical duties in CSLB's Description of Classifications booklet available on our website. Do not copy and paste the description from the booklet. This is only to give you an idea of what CSLB considers critical duties for its classification. Your certifier should complete this section in their own words and be as complete and accurate as possible. The final part of the work experience certificate is also to be completed by your certifier. They need to list their relationship to you and provide their contact information. Lastly, they will need to sign and date the certification.
The next form we will discuss is the Owner Builder B General Building Construction Project Experience form. This form only needs to be completed if you're applying for a B General Construction license and you want to receive experience credit for working on projects on your own property. A separate form is required for each project on the property. The experience must be verifiable through building permits, final inspections, and other documentation. You will need to list the building permit number on line 6. On line 7, you will need to provide the scope of the project. In boxes 8 through 10, you will need to provide more detailed information about the project. Question 11 asks if other general construction contractors worked on the project and what trades they performed. Remember, this information should be as complete and accurate as possible. With all the information we just covered, this is a good time to remind you that we are recording this workshop. We'll post the video on our YouTube channel so you can go back and rewatch it in case there's anything you missed. Okay, so you've got your application submitted. How do you check the status of that application? Here are 2 resources. First is the secured check. You'll need your application fee number and the contractor PIN number to get an update. We'll send you that information after we receive, cashier, and key into the system your completed application. The second way to check is to look online at our processing times. Each week we update our website with the date we received the paperwork specific process. So look for the date being worked on and know that if the date shown is after the date we likely received your paperwork, it's likely we're busy working on your application. As you can imagine, CSLB receives hundreds, if not thousands, of documents every day, and we process them in the order they're received. So be sure to take the extra time getting the applications right so we don't have to send it back to you to correct and then have to start processing your application again. When your application has been posted, CSLB will send you a notice to appear for examination and a study guide. You should get your exam notice at least 3 weeks prior to your exam date. CSLB has 7 test centers throughout California and encourages candidates to take their exams at the nearest test center.
If you're an applicant whose first language isn't English and you don't feel confident taking your exam in English, we do allow you to use a translator. The translator who you provide simply reads you the exam questions. Question 16 on the application asks if you need to use a translator to complete the examination. The translator must be approved by CSLB in advance. You cannot just show up on the day of your examination to the test center with someone to translate the exam for you. When you get an exam date, make sure you do not miss it. If you fail to appear for your exam, you will have to pay a non-refundable $100 fee to reschedule. That fee may be waived once with documented evidence of a medical emergency or other circumstances beyond your control. Also, we have study guides available for each of our exams. Included in each study guide, you will find a list of sections and topics covered by the exam. They also include sample questions, how each section of exam is weighted, and recommended resources that you can use to prepare for the examination. These study guides are available online on our website. There is a bonus link to them on the bottom of the screen.
Here's a quick look at 2 of those study guides. The first is the Law and Business exam, which all qualifiers must take, no matter which license classification, including the D-Series limited classes. You can see the guide contains a breakdown of examination topics, some test strategies, sample questions, and resources that were used to help create that exam. You will see that the same format on the B General Building Study Guide. We would recommend that you really pay attention to the exam content here, especially how we have broken down what percentage of questions there will be on each of the 5 topics on the exam. On the lower right of both of these 2 slides, you'll see bonus links to the actual study guides, as well as a link to the complete list of study guides.
We do have COVID-19 procedures in place for applicants on test day. Here they are. Plan to arrive at least 15 minutes early for your exam. Give yourself extra time to get checked in. Applicants are recommended to wear a face mask or other face coverings. Check and follow your local COVID-19 mask guidance before arriving for your test. If you appear ill, you will have to reschedule your exam for at least 5 days later at no additional charge. And you will not be admitted into the test centers more than 15 minutes prior to your exam time. We have also produced a short what to expect on test day video that you can watch on our YouTube channel. The link is at the bottom of your screen.
You'll take your exam on a touchscreen computer. Before starting, you'll see an on-screen tutorial that will take you through the process. The exam itself consists of multiple choice questions. You'll also see a space on each question where you can, if you want, submit a comment about that question. You'll get 3.5 hours to complete each exam. Don't arrive late, or that may reduce the amount of time you get to complete your exam. You'll get your results at the end of the exam. If you don't pass the exam, you will not be allowed to review the questions you missed, but you will get a statement showing how you did on each section of the exam. You can reschedule the exam as many times as you need within the 18-month period, as long as you pay the non-refundable $100 reschedule fee each time.
After you pass your exams, what happens next? First, you will need to pay your initial licensing fee, which is $200 for a sole owner license and $350 for a non-sole owner license. That will be good for 2 years. You will also need to complete an online asbestos open book exam. Plus, you will need to file your required $15,000 contractor surety bond and possibly some other bonds depending on what type of business entity you will have. And you will need to get your required insurance policy. If you have got employees, you will need to get workers' compensation insurance. If you are going to be an LLC, you will also need liability insurance. See our website for more information. Please note that your insurance company or broker can submit your insurance information to CSLB directly on our website. If you don't have employees, you must file a workers' compensation exemption with CSLB. You can do that online as well.
In about 5 to 10 business days, CSLB will send you a wall certificate and plastic pocket card license card. Display the wall certificate in your main office or chief place of business. Carry your pocket card with you, especially in situations where you're going to solicit business, talk to potential customers, or sign contracts. We encourage consumers to ask to see your pocket license. If you're going to have salespersons working for you, be sure to get them registered as a home improvement salesperson with CSLB. Check our website for more on how to do that. Your license will be good for 2 years. It will expire on the last day of the month when it was issued. For example, a license issued March 4th of 2022 will expire on March 31st of 2024. Be sure to put that expiration date on your calendar, in your phone, anywhere you need, so that you won't forget it. CSLB will send you a renewal notice in the mail approximately 60 days before it expires, but ultimately it is your responsibility to renew your license on time.
Here are a couple of other important deadlines to keep in mind. First, notify CSLB within 30 days if you move or change your business address. Your renewal notice will be sent to the address of record that we have got on file. If you're not at that address anymore, you're probably not going to get it. Plus, the Post Service will not forward a state government mail. Finally, notify CSLB within 30 days of all changes to personnel on your license, especially when it involves the qualifier of the license.
Once you get your license and get to work, you might want to hire someone as a salesperson to solicit, sell, negotiate home improvement contracts on your behalf outside of your place of business. These people are called home improvement salespersons, or HIS. Without an HIS, the official personnel of record on a license are the only ones who can solicit, sell, negotiate, or execute a contract. That includes individual contractors, license qualifiers, partners, corporation officers, and LLC responsible managing officers, members, managers, or employees. An HIS can work for more than one contractor. The licensee must notify CSLB in writing when they either associate or disassociate an HIS with their license.
There are a couple of exceptions to note. First are those who only schedule appointments for the contractor or registered HIS, and bona fide service and repair people. These are the folks you call out for repairs, including for things like air conditioning, heating, plumbing. But those service and repair people are limited to the work that was initially requested by the buyer or homeowner. For example, if your AC goes out and you call the HVAC company to come out, the service person does not have to be a registered salesperson. But if they go beyond the repair itself and sell you a new HVAC system, they would have to be a registered HIS. Also, don't employ an unregistered salesperson. That subjects you to administrative discipline, and the salesperson might get a citation or possibly even a criminal misdemeanor. We have got bonus link at the bottom of this page if you want to look at the actual code sections of the law. Okay, that's our presentation. Now it's time to answer the questions. Okay. If you have not established your corporation, can you put the license on your name and then apply to move the license to the corporation? Yes, you can get your license as a sole owner license first, and then you can convert it to a corporation. That would require you to reapply with the application for contractor license exam waiver. That's the second time. And also keep this in mind. If you submit your application as a sole owner and we go ahead and post it and refer you to exam, after that time, you cannot change your entity or personnel on the application. So if you're going to establish a corporation and change in the middle of the application, that would not most likely be possible. So whether establish your corporation first and submit the application, or get your sole owner license, get your license number, then submit to convert it to the corporation. Next question. Can you get some experience with a master's in mechanical engineering? Yeah, you can use that for a portion of your experience. Again, we can go through the individual of what exactly you would get for that, but submit it with your application and we will review it. You will get some credit for that. Can I apply for a general A if my experience is working for and under a general B contractor and industrial plants and commercial projects? Those things, again, these are specific, and those are very hardly can happen because if they are B, they are not supposed to do the A work, and if they are not doing the A work, so how you gain the experience? So that becomes complicated. So again, submit the application, we review it, but it's very, very rarely that a general A experience can be gained under the B. Where can we download this presentation from? Again, that one again, there is a link on our website, www.cslb.ca.gov. For military service to qualify as experience, does it need to be active service in the last 10 years or can it be longer? Our deputies actually look at those even if they go beyond 10 years for the military service. So yes, please submit that with your application and they will review it. I recently applied for a B license as a single owner corporation and single responsible manager with no other personnel. I just put an A on the page of the application. Is this okay? Oh yeah, if you don't have anybody to go on the page for the personnel, yeah, you can put NA or don't even submit that page. That would be fine. Are the trade exams for the general B and B2 different? Yes, they're different. As we said, B has framing in there, B2 does not. For disabilities, in the time altered for the exam time. Yes, you can request for accommodations, and one of those would be giving you more time. But please submit that. They have to be reviewed and approved. I still live with my family, and the sole owner is my mother. I made an addition to the home. Do I qualify as the owner builder? The owner builder would be your house, working in your house. So if you work for someone else, that would be makes you self-employed, not owner builder. Without a formal experience, not proof of experience, is possible obtaining license. Again, these are very specific. So you have to submit your application and put your experience, and then we review it. But remember, if your application is selected as the 3% to be verified, then you will have to have some documents to prove that. I used to hold a General B license. This license expired more than 10 years ago. Can I use that towards the work experience requirements? If you held a license, like a B license before, so you are qualified, but you still have to take the exam. Since it has passed 5 years from the time, you still have to take the test. You can submit the certification of work experience that shows your experience from where you were licensed. But since it's been more than 5 years, you still have to take the exam. What is the process for a translator to get approved for exam day? So once you send us the application and you check for the translator, once your application posted and referred to testing, they will send you a letter. And then once you get the letter, you're supposed to name a translator. You send it back. They will review those based on the guidelines they have, and they will approve it for you. And then they will schedule the exam. Fingerprints shall be sent after my application shall be approved or posted, or it should be included with the application. No. You send the application, we process the application. Once everything is there and is acceptable, we post the application. Once the application is posted, you will receive the fingerprint live scan form. And at that time, you can take care of it. Go and get the fingerprints done. Easier to qualify for a B2 than a B1. Well, these are two different classifications. It's not about which one is easier or not. It's about what the trades you perform. So if you have framing and you want to perform framing in your business, then you have to go for B or B1. But if what you're doing is not, structural work, there is no framing, and then you should go for B2. The application shall be sent in paper or digital. It has currently we only accept paper with the check for the fees, so paper. Pictures of work before process and fire count like experience. No, we do not accept pictures. You don't know where they are taken, who they're taken. So no, pictures are not accepted. You need to submit a detailed explanation sheet if you answer yes to question 13 of the applications questions. Yes, you can just submit, whatever it is, the circumstances under that yes answer. Credit for work on building an addition on your property is verified for permits and inspections, and what else? Again, we will look at the permits, definitely permits and the final inspections. So submit those. And if your application is selected as the 3%, on the link that we have, you can see what kind of document you may be asked to submit. When shall we send the application? The address. The address, everything is on our website, but it's 9821 Business Park Drive, Sacramento, California, 95827. Contractor State Licensing Board. But all that information is also on application. When you start filling out of application, once you pass the instructions, the first page is actually shows the address, who you supposed to pay the, make the check payable to, and what are the fees. On the left top hand corner, all that information is there. I have a California real estate license in good standing with no violations. Do I need to still get live scan and fingerprints? Yes. Live scan and fingerprints, live scans those are just between us and the DOJ and FBI. So yes, you have to get fingerprinted through CSLB once your application is accepted, posted. For tree service or tree contractor would only need experience and the one exam is the correct. Currently, you're correct. The tree service is D49 and you will only need to take the law and business exam. There is no trade exam. Are there somebody in Spanish to make some question by phone? We do have actually a Spanish workshop the third Friday of every month. So we will have one on the 18th, same time. So I definitely encourage you to log in that day at 10 a.m. Friday, March 18th, and listen to that. And we will entertain all your questions just like here in Spanish. Can anyone be a translator, or do they have to be a certified translator? No, it can be, but there are certain restrictions. For example, they can be in the construction industry themselves, or they, if they're, for example, if one of your children is coming, they cannot be going to school for like construction-related business. So there is some restrictions there, which again, once you get the letter, it will explain everything. But no, they don't have to be a certified. We have folks that, for example, have a 15-year-old son or daughter. They're dual language, so they can bring them. You just got to have it approved before they can show up with you. Okay. A California architect license and Bachelor of Science in Architecture would count for what amount of education? Ron, can you give us a help on this one?
Sure. So the education part is the part that would get you credit towards your experience. But it's also going to depend on the classification that you're going for. So the architectural Bachelor of Science, once again, average for most are going to be 24 months, but that can change depending upon the actual classification you're going for. The holding of the California architect license doesn't really gain you experience towards your application.
Thank you, Ron. If our military experience is not construction related, is it worth filling out the military experience portion in the application? I am a vehicular mechanic. Yeah, even if you don't, your experience is not related, but if you have the, honorable discharge and the DD-214, send it because your application gets expedited. We are right now dealing with about 4 or 5 weeks of backlog. So that would help you to get it expedited. There are 2 exams that are needed. As we said, like the classification A, B, and C, they have 2, the trade and law and business. The classification that come under C61, they're like a start with D, like D9 for drywall, D49 for tree service. They do not require the trade exam. They only require the, I'm sorry, drywall is C9. That one requires both trade and business. But the ones that D classes, they only need the law. Every other one needs 2 exams. I have 2 bachelors and evaluated with Bachelor of Business Administration, Bachelor of Architecture, and I have Certificate of Property Inspection from Canadian Inspection College with 3 years experience. Can I use them as credit? We will not combine them all. We will give you what gets you the most. And based on what I'm seeing, like the Bachelor of Business Administration, that's like gives you 2 years credit for pretty much any classification you apply for. So if you have that one, you send that one, that should be enough. We do not add them all together. We give you the one that gives you the most. My experience qualifier work for a general B license contractor, Jose. Different from the one where I gained my experience, general contractor. Contractor Bob, can he serve as my qualifier for my B license, even though we work for different B contractors? That really doesn't matter who you work for, as long as you show 4 years of experience in the last 10 years. If I have more than 25 years of experience and I have a professional education, I need to include my transcript because I study outside USA. Again, if you have 4 years of experience in the last 10 years, so if 4 of those 25 years were in last 10 years, we don't need your transcripts. You don't need to use your transcript to, to get that 4 years. You already have 4 years. And if you don't have 4 years in the last 10 years, then, depending on how much you have, you will need to submit that. But if you have 4 in the last 10, don't worry about transcripts. What means accredited evaluation service? I have my transcript translated by accredited translator. Does it work? And I need to include the copies. Well, translation is just literal translation of the transcripts. That does not say what is it equivalent in the USA. When you get it evaluated, they actually go through the curriculum of the university where you got your degree out of the country. And they compare that with the curriculum we have here. And they will say, okay, for example, this degree is equal to, for example, Bachelor of Science or Mechanical Engineering in United States. That's the difference between translation and evaluation. They can actually say what is equal to. I have 2 years military experience in construction, U.S. Navy Construction Battalion, builder trade. Do I get the full 2 years of accreditation? What supporting documents do I need to support my experience? Ron, can you give us a help on this one?
Sure. So all of these will be evaluated once it's sent in. For military training and everything, the document that they're going to be looking for is your military transcripts, which should show all the training classes you did, your classification, what your job description and duties were in there, and then, of course, your certification of work experience. So, but experience gained in the military is just like experience otherwise. When it's evaluated, if it meets the criteria of that classification, 2 years of the actual experience doing the classification work will count as 2 years. So like I said, the most important document is to request your military transcripts. On the DD-214 that will show your honorable discharge, that mainly gets you expedited processing and everything. So send in the transcripts with your DD-214. That should get you the expedited processing, and then they'll look at those transcripts for experience as well.
Thank you, Ron. Next question. Can you share some information for C8 concrete trade? I'm going to refer you to our website, the classification descriptions. We have a page shows all the classifications and the critical trades they perform. If you have, more specific questions, whether, something is covered under it or not, I'm going to refer you to classifications, that's plural, at cslb.ca.gov. That's the email. Classifications, plural, at cslb.ca.gov. And that is our classification deputies. They would, respond to your questions. For the landscaping license, would pictures of their work be helpful when it comes to providing their experience? No, we do not look at pictures. Can I use an employer that didn't have a business license and paid me cash? Again, you can use that, but there will be, again, if you're picked for the verification, then you may require some documents. For example, okay, you got the money, but did you file your taxes? We may ask for your, wage transcripts. So you can use it, but just know that if it was picked as 3%, you may have to submit some documents. I have 5 years construction project project management experience in Canada. Can I use that for my credit? Okay, again, you have to submit. Project management, it's we'll be looking at the journeyman, 4-person supervising employee contractor, so project management, if you never had any hands-on experience, I don't see how it can be used. But again, these are all specific experiences. You can put it and send it to us. But if you just, you just hired other subcontractors and then schedule them to do the work, that does not make you whether journeyman, 4-person supervising employee or contractor. So how would you prove your experience if you do not tree removal and palm tree maintenance? Again, you have performed that work for somebody. Even if you didn't work for a contractor, you probably work for a client or someone. So you may go to those and have them complete the certification of work experience. Again, you need 4 years in the last 10 years. If my experience more than 25 years working outside USA, but in a specific trades, and I have been working last 4 years in USA in a specific trade, I have both qualifiers of my experience. I can put part-time because it's a contract by a specific project. I would have inconvenient to approve my application. It's not about convenience. It's about, you give us an accurate picture of where your experience was gained and what kind of trades you perform. Again, you say you've been working last 4 years in USA in a specific trade. So that is the trade you should apply for. And if you work here 4 years as a journeyman, then you should be fine. Whatever again, if you want to use part or, outside USA experience that was within the last 10 years too, that's fine. You can just get the certification of work experience, someone to certify you back home where you did gain the experience. I can't put part-time is a full-time. I don't know the question, but yeah, if you work full-time, it's full-time. But there is another thing I explain to you about full-time and part-time. For example, you can always say, okay, like from 2015 to present, you work part-time because sometimes, for example, a contractor will call you to, do a project. So you do the project, it's 2-3 months. Then for a month or two, you don't have any work. Then you have another project for 4 or 5 months. So again, your certifiers say, for example, since 2015, from 2015 to present, you work full time. but the total of 4 years, so it is 7 years between 2015 and now. But because of the, different time of the, project you did, it is part-time because you're not doing it every day for like last 7 years. But you can say that, okay, it was part-time, but the total was 4 years or 5 years in a whole, like 7 years. Or, last 7 years. I have a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from a California university. Do I get the 2 years of experience for the Bachelor in Business Administrations? Yes, you will get 2 years of experience. How can I pay my application? I need to include the money cash with my application. Yes, please submit a check or money order with your application and send it to us. Only with the B1 license can I hire or subcontract a specific trades. The B2 will not allow me to hire or subcontract outside the scope of the license. For example, adding a square footage, moving load-bearing walls, rough framing, pouring concrete footing. Ron, would you take that one?
Sure. So the B1 is, you can subcontract in any classification that you hold. I mean, if you hold a painting C33, you can subcontract that painting out to another person who holds the C33. Now, when you talk about the B2, you can't subcontract out anything that you don't have the classification yourself. You can't sub it out to someone else. So the B2 is for residential remodeling, to do load bearing and things that only the B1 can do. That a B1 would have to write the contract on that.
Correct. Next question, how much is the money? $450 for C60. Yes, the initial application fee is $450. But when you get to the initial licensing fee, that's where it differs. For sole owners, it's $200. For corporations and LLCs and other entities, it's $350. But initial licensing fee, is the same for all. Am I able to just take the exam for C8 concrete contractor license, or do I have to take General B? No, if you apply for a C8, you only take the C8 exam. If you apply for a B, you take the B exam. So no, you don't have to take the B if you apply for C8. Now, you can get your B, and then later on when you come and apply to add C8 to your license, then in that time, since you already have the B, you don't have to take the law anymore, but you still have to take the trade exam for C8, or vice versa. Let's say you have C8, you get your C8 license, and then you come and apply for your B, then you will only need to take the trade for B. But no, once you apply for C8, for example, you don't have to take the trade for B. Okay, that seems to be all the questions today. Thank you, everyone. That's all the time we have. Thank you for all your questions. If you have any other question about your application, we encourage you to drop an email to our licensing division. Here, that email address, licensing@cslb.ca.gov. That's licensing@cslb.ca.gov. If at some point you need to reschedule your exam, you can get that process started by dropping an email to exams, that's plural, @cslb.ca.gov. We have also put together a list of available resources for women considering a career in construction. If you haven't already, be sure to download this presentation to get them. You can download the presentation on a green banner on the top of our homepage, www.cslb.ca.gov. If you are watching the archive video of this workshop on our YouTube page, You will find a link to the presentation down below.
We welcome your comments or topics for future webcasts. Just drop us an email to social@cslb.ca.gov. Special thanks to our Licensing Division and Public Affairs Office for their help in this workshop. The Get Licensed to Build workshop is a copyrighted production of the California Contractors State Licensing Board. Thanks for watching.